Hello, everyone. My name is Charlotte Kinlow, and I'm a project manager with the City of Tacoma's Public Works Department. This is the Orchard Street Lakewood Drive public meeting. I'm going to start us out with going over a few housekeeping items and introductions to get us started. For those of you that are not panelists, your audio and video are currently on mute, so the presenters can't hear or see, but there will be an opportunity later for us to answer some questions and take some public comment. At any time during the presentation, if you do have a question, click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and the question will be sent to Tina, who will be reading me your questions during the Q&A portion of the event. If you called in on your phone and are only listening, you can still send in questions via email at ckinlow, so that's CKINLOW at cityoftacoma.org. I'll monitor those and address them as part of the Q&A as well. The meeting will run from noon to 1. The project website is cityoftacoma.org/Orchard Street. And then a recording of the meeting will be available on the website after the meeting. Try and get it up pretty soon, but give us maybe a week or so if there's any issues with uploading it. So let's get to some introductions. As I mentioned, I'm Charla Kinlow, a project manager with the Public Works Department at the City of Tacoma. And we also have my colleague Tina Dunn here, who's going to be helping with the Q&A portion. The project spans over 3 jurisdictions, so we've got representatives from Lakewood, University Place, and Metro Parks, since the golf course is right next door or adjacent to the corridor as well. So panelists, when I say your name, if you can take a few seconds to just tell us what the role is with the project. So first we've got Council Member Walker.
Good afternoon. I'm Christina Walker. I'm one of the at-large City Council members for the City of Tacoma. I'm very excited to be here.
And Jack Eklund.
Hi, I'm Jack Eklund. I'm the Director of Engineering for University Place, and my role will be the primary University Place contact for this project.
Ted Hill. Maybe Ted's not here. Oh, Paul Busich.
Yeah, I'm Paul Busich. I'm the Public Works Engineering Director and City Engineer here at the City of Lakewood. My role is oversight over the overall project, like Jack is for University Place, and to help shepherd this through the process so we ultimately get grant funding so that we can build this common project for all 3 jurisdictions.
Chris Goodman.
I'm Chris Goodman. I'm the manager of Meadow Park Golf Course, Metro Parks Tacoma employee. We're just excited to be part of this project and want to help shepherd this project along. It's a much needed improvement for our community.
Jacob Hams.
Hi, I'm Jacob Hammis, Public Works with Public Works for City of Tacoma. I'm the lead engineer for this project on the Tacoma side. And our team has been working on the concepts for this project.
Brennan Kidd.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brennan Kidd with the City of Tacoma Public Works. I'm Assistant Division Manager for the Transportation Division and also acting as the interim city traffic engineer.
Gail Himes.
Hi, everyone. This is Gail Himes. I'm the ADA coordinator for the city, and I make sure that everything in the right-of-way, especially in this project, bus stops, sidewalks, signal systems are all accessible for people, especially those with disabilities.
And Liz Castor.
Hi, I'm Liz Castor. I'm a senior planner in our transportation division and the active transportation coordinator.
All right, thank you, everyone. So in the Q&A portion, if you are adding any questions and if there's any of the panelists that you specifically want to direct your question to, you can mention your name. or mention their name as part of it. Otherwise, we'll pick the person who we think will be best able to address it. As far as questions and feedback, really anything's welcome, but if you have particular concerns, a lot of you out there are experts on your neighborhood. You live there, you interact there. So if there's, for instance, any specific intersections where you travel regularly and maybe it feels unsafe to you, or any businesses that you go to regularly that you have concerns about, please let us know. The project extends from 56th Street to 74th Street, and there's what we call an interlocal agreement. It's an agreement between the 3 jurisdictions to do some preliminary designs for the corridor. And then your feedback is going to help us make decisions moving forward about how to design it, how to potentially phase it, which grants to apply for, that sort of thing. Oh, the project does also include the Manitou area, which is currently Pierce County, but it's in the process of being annexed into the city of Tacoma. So the agreement is for 30% design, and this talks a little bit about what 30% design means. Once we have a 30% design, we'll have plans that show the right-of-way lines and right-of-way needs for the project, the number of vehicular travel lanes, any bike lanes, bike facilities that we're planning on incorporating and their associated widths. We'll look at transit access needs, retaining wall needs, intersection needs, and that includes ADA crossings and signals improvements, information on existing utilities and utility adjustment needs. We'll look at street trees, try to retain trees where we can, maybe add some where we can. And then the plans will also show jurisdictional lines. And then as part of the scope, we'll also do a cost estimate to help us with phasing and grant applications in the future. So the budget for this conceptual or 30% design is just a little over 80,000, and it's spread between the 3 jurisdictions. City of Tacoma has the biggest portion since most of the right-of-way is within the city of Tacoma. At this point, I'll hand it over to Liz to discuss some of the City of Tacoma's policy support to help inform what the design will look like. Council Member Walker is also here to talk a little bit more about how we got to where we are with making this project happen.
Thanks, Charla. So Tacoma has a number of key policies that guide how we plan, design, and build our transportation system. So we wanted to briefly highlight a few of those today. So the City of Tacoma has set a Vision Zero goal to eliminate crashes that cause serious injuries and deaths by the year 2035. This plan also has a strong focus on addressing the racial disparities we see in our transportation system. The plan includes in-depth crash analysis, which found that 75% of Tacoma's highest risk roads are in areas that have low or very low access to opportunity, according to our city's equity index. The city's Complete Streets policy calls on us to use every transportation project as an opportunity to improve safety and accessibility. We're also guided by the policies in the city's transportation master plan. These direct us to prioritize pedestrians, people walking and rolling, riding bikes, and public transit riders. We know that when we make our streets safer for people to walk and roll, we make them safer for everyone. These transportation policies also align closely with Tacoma's recently adopted 2030 Climate Action Plan. Transportation is Tacoma's leading source of greenhouse gas emissions, and the plan includes the goal to complete our active transportation network by 2050. At our current rate, it'll take us over 119 years to reach that goal. So we know we need to pick up the pace, and projects like this one are a key opportunity to help us create a safe, equitable, and connected network that's accessible for all. So now I want to hand it over to Tacoma City Council Member Christina Walker, who has been engaging with the community on this project.
Thank you, Liz. And I will just reiterate how important this project and all multimodal projects are to this council, as you can see with the number of policies we've put in place. And we're really excited to see this collaborative project happen. I know it's more challenging when you have more jurisdictions, but it really excited to see this moving forward. I wanted to talk briefly, as you can see on this slide, I spent some time out at the intersection a couple months ago. Thanks to Disability Rights Washington, and in particular, Crystal Monteros, the chair of our city's Tacoma Area Commission on Disabilities, who are both in the photo there, along with Pierce County Council member Janie Hitchens, Tacoma City Council member Joe Bushnell in his district, and our CEO at Pierce Transit, Mike Griffiths. We spent some time out there checking out the intersection, we did a little press conference out there. This was part of the week without driving. But what we saw really firsthand there is the safety and accessibility concerns along the corridor. And I'm so glad that we have everybody here at the table to start looking at design solutions to address the issues. As you can see, Crystal there is in a wheelchair, and just being able to see firsthand what that means when you have an intersection that isn't designed to put wheelchairs first was really eye-opening. Just wanted to reiterate that these sorts of projects and partnerships are so essential for us to meet our goals in the city of Tacoma. Our safety, our equity, our transportation, and our climate goals are all tied to projects just like this one. And thank you, Liz, for outlining all of those. And thank you, Charla, for having me here today. Really excited to see the project move forward.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Walker and Liz. So we'll go over a little bit. Lakewood and University Place also have some supporting policy and municipal code support. And the slide, I think, as I mentioned before, will be posted online. The municipal code sections are included in the slides if anyone wanted to dig into that further later on. But as feasible, Lakewood shall incorporate complete streets infrastructure into existing public and private streets to create a comprehensive, integrated, connected transportation network for Lakewood that balances access, mobility, health and safety needs of pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users, motorists, emergency responders, freight and users of all ages and abilities, ensuring a fully sustainable, connected, integrated network that provides transportation options. And you can see Lakewood has been integrating some aspects of that into their projects already as well. Just south of this project, or south of this corridor, from 74th down to Silicon Boulevard, there's a shared use path along the west side. And then once you get south of that, Lakewood has incorporated what's called sharrows, so bike lanes in the road that go about a mile south of this project. University Place's comprehensive plan has multiple policies supporting and encouraging the establishment of complete streets, ADA improvements, speed limits that improve safety, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, sidewalks on substantially redeveloped streets, a system of bicycle routes, pathway and trail connections, and expanding opportunities for walking and biking. And this image on the slide here was taken out of University Place's comprehensive plan, which shows this area as part of the proposed bicycle route system. So when you put all those policies and goals together, it puts us on the path of wanting to incorporate these key design elements. We're looking for wider sidewalks, closing sidewalk gaps, curb ramps, a reduction of the speed limit, signalization, bike connectivity, more trees where possible or retaining trees where possible, better separation between cars and pedestrians and upgraded pedestrian crossings, and additional pedestrian crossings where they don't currently exist. This slide is the crash data over the past 5 years that was pulled from WSDOT. Not all the crashes listed specific intersections, but you can see over the last 5 years, there were 50 reported injuries and 1 fatality. Here's the current Pierce transit stops in the area. We've got Route 53 in blue and Route 202 in red. And then we have a few slides showing some of the existing conditions. There's actually multiple transit stops in the area where they're not accessible to all users. So this is just one of the examples. So you can see the lack of sidewalks, lack of access. This is another situation that can be dangerous for users of the corridor. We call this area along here, a lot of people call them goat paths or cow paths. Demand lines is another term for it. People taking non-official walking routes because there really is no other option. And so the people who do take these routes are putting themselves at risk. And then people with disabilities that affect mobility don't even have that as an option. And this is the intersection of 66th Street West. Again, you can see the lack of curb ramps, lack of sidewalks, just a general lack of bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Here's a cross section of the typical existing conditions. This is actually kind of the best case scenario for the typical existing conditions. As we've pointed out and shown in the pictures, there's a lot of areas where there is not existing connected sidewalk on both sides. But in some areas, we do have 5-foot sidewalks on each side currently, along with 11-foot drive lanes and a center turn lane. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jacob to discuss a couple of concepts that we have that have been designed for current consideration. And then we've also got some photos that show examples of what a shared use path or protected bike lanes might look like.
Thank you, Charla. As Charla mentioned, we are in the conceptual portion of the design. We're really looking at what the options are, what best fits with the area and with the goals of the project. And what would best serve, multimodal users, not just automobiles, but also bikes and pedestrians and those with limited mobility. Right now, we're considering 2 potential cross sections or the combination of the two, making a transition somewhere along the project. In the top one, we're looking at making it a 2 through lanes and a continuous center turn lane throughout the corridor, and then adding bike lanes and sidewalk outside of that. The bike lanes would be buffered and protected. And then on the lower one, we're considering doing a shared use path on one side of the road, and then maintaining 4 continuous through lanes for vehicles, and adding a slightly narrower sidewalk on the opposite side of the shared use path. What we show here for width is what we're considering to kind of be the minimum that we could fit on the corridor. And as space allows, we would make some of these wider. So say in the upper portion, we would make the bike lane and or the buffer wider where we can. And on the lower cross section, where we can, we would make the shared use path wider or the opposing sidewalk. And then on the next slide, we show kind of an overview view of what these 2 different cross sections look like. Again, on the top would have buffered and protected bike lanes, and on the south side, or on the lower section, we would have the shared use path. And this just shows kind of how the striping would work out on the overall cross sections. And then on the next slide, so on the left-hand side, this is what a typical shared use path looks like. This is an example from South 47th Street that has been constructed before. And then on the right-hand side is a couple of examples of what a protected bike lane would look like with that 1 foot minimum buffer. We would use what's called tough curb, which is a pretty typical thing. And it could be, but it could vary depending on the space we have or what we feel is would serve best to protect pedestrians and bicyclists from vehicles. Thank you, Charla.
Thank you, Jacob. So again, just a reminder of where we currently are in the process. It's still pretty early on. We're working out what the conceptual design could be. You know, big aspects of it, like the number of drive lanes, things like that. So we're looking for your feedback on some of those general items. Once we're done with the conceptual design, then we will use those preliminary designs and the information we gather from that to apply for different grants, either federal grants, state grants. There's a lot of different sources out there. And then assuming we can get some funding, move forward with completing the design. And then there's a right-of-way phase where if there's any like jogs in the property lines, things like that that need to be adjusted, we'll do that. And then on to construction, assuming we can secure the funding. And the best way to keep up to date as the project moves forward is cityoftacoma.org/Orchard Street. If you really want to navigate to it from our general website, it would be cityoftacoma.org. And then there's a quick links box in the lower right-hand corner. And you just click on city construction projects, and then you'll be able to see all of our projects and navigate to the Orchard Street Lakewood Drive link. Here's a list of our contacts from the presenters today. Again, it'll be posted online. So if you think of anything after the meeting that you'd like to share with us, feel free to reach out. And wanted to thank everyone again who's gotten us to this point in the process. I think we can move on to the Q&A portion of the meeting. And Tina is going to help me with that again. If you haven't put in any questions yet and you want to, the Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen. Tina, do we have any questions?
As of right now, we don't.
We did get a couple of public comments before the meeting, and so I know sidewalks are definitely something that people are looking for in the neighborhood, and transit access was another huge priority for the project. Someone had mentioned there's a daycare along the corridor, and I think they had said that they saw people with strollers try to go along some of those demand lines or goat path, cow path type areas like I showed in a previous slide. So yes, as part of this project, we will be working to address some of those concerns. I can give it just a few more minutes if we would like to see if anyone wants to put in any questions. Again, my email is ckinlow, that's CKINLOW @cityoftacoma.org. And you can continue to contact me, send me any questions or comments after the meeting as well. And my phone number is 253-208-4223. And that's on the website as well. So,
We did just get one pop in.
okay.
If you go with the shared use path option, is there a plan on signage or ways to help bike ped share the space safely? SEPs in the place of sidewalks are often interpreted just as wide sidewalks, leading to issues sharing the space.
That's a good question. I'm gonna see if Liz maybe wants to address that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to chat about that. Yeah, I think part of it really depends on the width that we're able to get. With 10 feet, it's not really enough to fully separate the bikes and the peds. But I think that signage and just an ongoing education that when bicyclists are riding on shared use paths or sidewalks, which they're fully allowed to do in the city of Tacoma, that they are responsible for yielding to pedestrians. But I think we're totally open to other design ideas and feedback there too. And once we have the width settled on and know those constraints, I think we'll be able to brainstorm even further.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you. And then as Jacob had mentioned before too, with the cross sections, the 10-foot is the minimum. He was really looking at like the minimum amount of right of way that we have. So if there are areas where, if we decide to go with the shared use path option, if there are areas where it could be wider, that is something that we could look into.
So we've gotten a few pop in now.
Okay, good.
Any potential plans for new signals or street lights? To add, there is a very dark area of the street. I do not see pedestrian access to crosswalks, especially for youth in the area.
Yes. And the short answer is yes. We'll definitely be looking at signalization as part of this and adding additional pedestrian crossings, upgrading pedestrian crossings that currently exist that where needed. I don't know, Jacob, or Brennan, if you wanted to add anything to that. That's any more specific, but yes, that is something that will be part of this project.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I mean, it's a simple answer of yes. That I know there's two of the signals are heavily under consideration for changes, and streetlights are always on the table on a project like this. Yeah.
And Jacob, it may be helpful to kind of address which of those intersections, because I know like the University Place folks have had a concern at 64th Street. And I know that's one of our intersections we're considering. So it may be helpful to just kind of identify which intersections we're looking at improving as part of this.
So the two intersections that are heavily under consideration right now, from our view, is 74th. Lakewood has a desire to replace that signal system. And then Tacoma has a desire to upgrade the system at 66th as we take possession of that area from Pierce County.
I'd like to add that we want to have the 64th added in there as a consideration as well, because that's something we have talked about. So I want to make sure that doesn't get lost in the shuffle, because that has been an important, of the comments I get, that's always a big request from the UP residents.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Have you considered shared use path and 2 lanes? How will 2 lanes versus 4 lanes impact traffic?
I can answer that. I can answer that partially. We have considered 2 lanes with this shared use path. I don't know off the top of my head, what the traffic impacts would be. I don't know if Brennan wants to give some general answers on that. But in general with the concepts, the goal has been trying to maximize the space available. And so with that in mind, we ended up at a 4-lane section with the shared use path.
Yeah, just to add on to that, Jacob. Yeah, with us being at the conceptual stage, we're certainly open to different configurations and how to address the different modes of traffic that we're trying to accommodate with this project. So as you might have seen in the presentation, there was a cross section that had one lane in each direction with a center turn lane to help facilitate access to properties and side streets and things like that, with while doing the bike facilities on street with companion sidewalk facilities go with that. And then kind of a counterpart to that was a cross section that had 4 lanes of traffic, no turn lane, and then accommodated the active transportation through a shared use path on one side of the street. So so we're at this point, everything's on the table for consideration, and we're going to try and strike that best balance between addressing the needs of the different modes of traffic that use this important corridor for all 3 of our jurisdictions.
Hey, Brennan, it may also be helpful because I know Tacoma's had a lot of experience in road diets, which is basically essentially what we'd be looking at here. Both, and I know we have done some as well in University Place, but we don't have as many. The traffic volumes haven't been the same as out here, but I know Tacoma's had a number of streets that have had probably similar traffic volumes and have been successful, I believe. And I don't know if there's any examples you can share on that to help answer any questions people may have.
Probably the one that would be most comparable and one that we did several years back was Mildred, adjacent to Tacoma Community College from South 12th Street to South 19th Street. It was carrying, upwards of 15,000 vehicles a day, and was a 2 lanes in each direction with a center turn lane, and we got a grant project similar to what we would be pursuing for this project to rebuild that road with concrete because it is heavily used by transit, and so to give it a lifespan that was commensurate with its usage. But at that same time, we also took advantage of reanalyzing and ultimately reconfiguring it to just have 1 lane in each direction with buffered bike lanes and a turn lane. And so obviously that influenced at least the one cross section that I already mentioned as a possibility, because that could very well be a similar a similar cross section that could also accommodate the needs of this corridor. This corridor does have a fair bit more traffic than that section in Mildred, but it would still be within the range that the industry practices says could accommodate reducing it from its current configuration to something less than what it is now. And Mildred's been working great for the last, I think that project goes back sometime around 2013 or something like that, and it's been working pretty well from our standpoint. And and I think having that bike connection, which we were then able to extend even farther north from up to 6th Avenue and beyond with another grant from a different source. So it really kind of spurred or was the catalyst project to trying to get a really connected and continuous kind of active transportation corridor going. So that might be the same kind of intent and catalyst here, especially with us connecting with Lakewood to the south and their plans for active transportation as well.
Thank you. Next question. Do you know how long it will take to finish this entire project?
No, again, is the short answer. So one of the considerations is we may end up breaking it into phases as well. It's really hard to estimate, when we'll get funding to move forward, how much funding we'll get, and then sometimes in order to obtain funding, it works out better to break a project into phases. If we do that, there's a possibility that maybe University Place or Lakewood could take lead on a phase as we move forward. We'll definitely keep working together and coordinating though to make sure that whoever's taking lead and however we decide to move forward, we are working together with one common vision. Yeah, I wish I could give a more satisfying answer than that. But it'll probably, I mean, I wouldn't expect construction to start out there anytime in the next few years. It's probably gonna take, I would think, at least a couple of years to get things all coordinated, working, get a design finalized, and get some funding for construction.
Thank you. Could you explain the PBL protection again? Is there conversations around more substantial separation, such as grade separation, taller concrete buffers, planters, etc.?
Tina, does it say PBL?
Yeah, that's protected bike lane.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, Charlotte, do you want to go back to the cross section?
Yes.
Yeah, so great question. Right now, these are pretty preliminary given the space available. What we're kind of looking at here. Oh, can you do the one that has waves? Thank you. Looking at something like tough curb, similar to what just went in on Oak Street, where we've got the two-way protected bike lane. We're going to see how that kind of holds up on that project. And we've got the Cedar Street protected bike lanes kind of using a similar product as well. So our plan is to kind of just see how that works as we start to implement these protected bike lanes and, you know, continue to evolve and follow the research and what materials are out there. But with that narrower buffer, that's definitely a consideration.
Thank you, Liz. Any chance of art or paint at curb ramps?
I can take that
Okay.
if you'd like. Or Jacob, did you want to?
I mean, I can answer part of the art question. One of the city's policies for capital improvement projects, which this would fall under, is to do 1% of the project budget for art. That's a 1% minimum. It's not a, you know, it's not a maximum amount. So that would certainly be included.
Yeah, and then with the paint, we don't paint the actual ADA ramp. We need that visual consistency there, but we do, on a couple of projects, we're looking at like painted bulb outs as one way to integrate art into projects. I don't know if that will be appropriate on this project or like how the designs will actually play out, but we're excited to try that on a couple of upcoming projects, including the J Street Bike Boulevard.
All right, thank you, both of you. So this one is more of a statement, a comment, not a question. Please increase the greening urban forest in this part of the city. Currently, the canopy in that area is 8% approximate. The City Council of Tacoma is aiming for 30%. We are behind, and prioritizing greening will make our cities more climate change resilient. Thank you.
And yes, thank you for that comment. That is something that is on our radar as well, looking at it, trying to retain trees, trying to plant more trees where we can to increase that urban canopy. There's a lot of things with the project to balance right now. So I'm not exactly sure what the final design will look like, but that is something that we also want to prioritize and support as our city policies call for it.
And so for our last question right now, The 56th and Orchard 2-lane merge into one is a congested area in addition to the business driveways to the left and right. This area follows into University Place roundabout. Will this area of the road be included in improvements?
That was so specifically the 56th and Orchard intersection?
It appears that, yes, 2-lane merge into the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
56th
Yes.
and Orchard.
Yeah, we have talked about that, and we've also talked about we'll need to make sure that we find a way so that because there will be a difference in lanes and how traffic works moving from this corridor, which the project would start at 56 and then north of 56. So we're going to have to do some improvements to that intersection. We're going to have to make sure that however it's designed, that that traffic and cars, pedestrians, bikes, everyone is able to experience a smooth transition there.
I don't think
Yeah.
though we are considering too many changes to 56 or Cirque itself.
Oh,
That work was done under a previous project, so that right now, at least our current considerations, we're not looking at changes to that configuration.
Right. Yep. That was my interpretation of the question too, was on 56 Cirque, west of Orchard, was that going to be part of the project scope? And no, I don't believe so. I think what you're speaking to, Charlotte, though, was important too, is that, yeah, for whatever cross section, ends up being the best, balance of needs and factors for this corridor, we will be cognizant of needing to tie that into, existing infrastructure that has not, is not part of the project, but nevertheless, is already established and existing. It may needs to retain that configuration in order to process the traffic at, at the busier intersections at 56 and Cirque and at 74th and Lakewood. So, so that is part of the project, but yeah, I think our scope, limits are wholly aligned with the Orchard / Lakewood Drive, alignment from south side of 56 to north side of 74th.
okay, thank you. Yeah, apologies, I misinterpreted that question.
And so far, that looks like that was all the questions and comments that we've received so far. If anybody has anything else, we have a few more minutes left, or we could give 15 minutes back to everybody's lunch hour.
All right, well, yeah, like I said, email is still always an option too for sending in questions or comments as you think of them later. And we will be updating the website as well. We look forward to keeping you updated on this. Thank you for attending today. And we will stay in touch.
Thank you, everyone.